The most powerful person in the room is rarely the one talking. Think about that for a moment. You walk into a space, a meeting, a dinner, a conversation, and someone is quiet. Not shy, not nervous, just still. And without understanding why, you find yourself watching them, waiting for them to speak, wondering what they're thinking. That feeling is not random. It is a psychological response, and it happens to almost everyone. Silence, when used with intention, is one of the most misunderstood forces in human behavior. And today, we are going to break down exactly why. Most people believe that presence comes from volume, from words, from energy that fills the space. Society rewards the talker, the one who presents confidently, who dominates conversation, who always has something to say. So when someone chooses silence instead, the brain registers something unusual, something that does not follow the expected pattern. And the human brain, wired for pattern recognition, does not like gaps it cannot fill. Here is what most people never realize. Silence forces the other person to do the psychological work. The quiet individual does not have to convince, persuade, or perform. The mind of the person watching them does it automatically. This is not a trick. It is not manipulation. It is a deeply rooted aspect of human psychology, one that explains why silent people consistently project more authority, more intelligence, and more emotional stability than those who speak without restraint. Mechanism 1. The information vacuum. Human beings are uncomfortable with uncertainty. When someone speaks frequently, they hand over information, their opinions, their insecurities, their reactions. The listener builds a complete picture. But when someone remains quiet, that picture never forms, and the brain, unable to complete it, fills the gap with assumption. Research in social cognition shows that people attribute higher status and deeper intelligence to those who speak less, but with precision. The brain interprets restraint as confidence. Silence becomes a signal that says, "I do not need your approval to feel secure." Mechanism 2. Emotional gravity. Imagine two people in a tense conversation. One becomes reactive, raising their voice, talking faster, justifying themselves. The other stays calm, measured, unhurried. Psychologically, the reactive person loses ground, not because they are wrong, but because their emotional state becomes visible. The calm person, by contrast, becomes a kind of anchor. Others unconsciously orient toward them. This is sometimes called emotional gravity. The person with the most regulated nervous system often holds the most social influence in a given space. Silence is one of the clearest signals of that regulation. Mechanism 3. The projection effect. Here's where it becomes particularly interesting. When we cannot read someone, we project. We assign them qualities based on our own internal experience. A quiet, composed individual becomes, in the minds of others, whatever they most admire or most fear. Wise, mysterious, dangerous, knowing. This is not something the silent person controls. It happens automatically in the observer, which means the person saying nothing is paradoxically creating the strongest impression, not through action, but through absence. Mechanism 4. The weight of selective speech. Words, spoken rarely and deliberately, carry more weight. This is not metaphor, it is a well-documented psychological principle. When someone speaks often, the listener begins to filter. The brain adapts to the noise. But when someone who rarely speaks finally does, the brain sharpens. Every word is treated as signal rather than filler. Studies on persuasion suggest that perceived credibility increases when a speaker uses fewer, more deliberate words. The silent person, when they finally speak, is already being listened to more carefully than the person who has been talking the whole time. Mechanism 5. Patience as power. Silent people tend to observe before they respond. In negotiation, in conflict, in decision-making, this behavioral pattern consistently produces better outcomes. While others react, they process. While others reveal, they absorb. There is a reason experienced negotiators are trained to speak less. Whoever talks first in a moment of tension tends to offer concessions before they need to. The person comfortable with silence holds the advantage, not because they are playing a game, but because their comfort with discomfort gives them more information and more time. Scenario 1. The workplace meeting. A team meeting runs long. Debate circles the room. People talk over each other, anxious to be heard. One person sits quietly throughout. They take notes. They observe. Near the end, they offer 3 precise sentences that reframe the entire discussion. Afterward, colleagues walk away remembering that person most clearly. Not because they spoke most, but because when they did, it felt considered. Scenario 2. A social gathering. At a crowded event, most people are performing, filling silence with small talk, nervous laughter, constant engagement. One person moves through the space calmly, engaging briefly, listening more than speaking. By the end of the night, multiple people mention them in conversation. Some find them intriguing. Some feel vaguely unsettled without knowing why. The person said very little. They left a significant impression. Scenario 3. A conflict in a relationship. 2 people in a disagreement. One partner speaks quickly, emotions rising, trying to explain and defend simultaneously. The other listens, waits, then responds with one quiet, clear sentence. The first partner stops, recalibrates. Without fully understanding why, they feel the balance in the conversation has shifted. The quiet response landed harder than anything the raised voice said. If you are on the receiving end of this dynamic, awareness is the most important tool available to you. First, notice when you feel the pull to fill silence with someone else. That discomfort is internal, not an external demand. You are not obligated to fill every gap in conversation. Second, observe how you respond to quiet, composed individuals. Are you assigning them qualities they have not demonstrated? Are you making assumptions based on their stillness? Your projections belong to you, not to them. Third, understand that regulated silence is not the same as coldness, disinterest, or superiority. Some people are quiet because they are thoughtful. Others use silence deliberately. Learning to tell the difference protects you from misreading situations and assigning power where it may not belong. Finally, practice your own comfort with silence. The discomfort most people feel in quiet moments is trained, not natural. The more you sit with it, the less it controls your behavior. There is a version of strength that does not announce itself, does not seek validation, does not compete for space. It simply exists, steady, observant, unhurried. And in a world built on noise, that stillness becomes something rare, something that the mind cannot easily categorize or dismiss. The psychology of silent people is not about withholding. It is about understanding something that most people spend their entire lives moving too fast to learn, that what you do not say shapes perception just as powerfully as what you do, that patience is a form of clarity, that composure in a reactive world is its own kind of force. Once you understand this, you stop misreading quiet people, and perhaps more importantly, you begin to understand the quiet parts of yourself, the ones that have always known that the most powerful response is sometimes no response at all.